Welcome. Thank you for being here this afternoon. I'll give you a little State of the Union. I'm Charles Breithaupt, Executive Director of the UIL, and we're excited to kick off the 96th season of high school football in Texas under the UIL umbrella. We began in 1920, and it seems like yesterday. I wasn't at that game, Susan, much to your surprise. We have a lot on our plate as we move forward. We're thankful for Coach Rutledge and his staff for all the work that they've done and being so hospitable to us and giving us an opportunity to share our thoughts and interest with the high school coaches and athletic directors. We had a great banquet last night with the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association, and they introduced some of their Hall of Fame members. Had a great time. Being entertained by them. And so today our staff's been busy in working with the coaches from different sports, and we're thankful that Coach Martin and Coach Rutledge have allowed us to split those sessions up, so we're talking sports specifically to football, then separately with baseball and separately with basketball and all the sports. So it's been a good format and a good plan, and we hit the ground running after this. Summer's over. And as you know, the first football game is 38 days away. And it seems like yesterday we just finished in Houston and had a couple days off and hit the ground running again. So here we are. I want to talk a little bit about some things Coach Rutledge was mentioning, and one of our concerns is the college recruiting. Even though we have nothing to do with that, we are concerned from the standpoint of our coaches telling us that they're unhappy with some of the things that are going on in 7-on-7, the select play that's going on. It mirrors basketball. The evolution of change that's happened in basketball and recruiting, which is really taken out of the high school coaches' hands for the most part. I think our football coaches in Texas are concerned that that might happen as well. So Coach Rutledge and I have had a lot of conversation. I know that Susan's had a lot of conversations with Joe Martin, and Jamey's talked with both of them, and we're watching that carefully. We're going to continue to work with the National Federation family and the other 50 state associations that we're a member of and talk to them about their concerns as well. I know the NCAA has a 2-year project going on and analyzing where football is and where it's headed. And one of the things that we're seeing is that a lot of colleges are recruiting from 7-on-7. They're taking the summer period when they can get their staff out and they can see a lot of kids, and that's what happens with basketball. You go to these select camps, leagues, and tournaments in the summer while your staff's available, and you recruit from there. And then, of course, the college campuses that have contact camps, then they can go get their linemen from there. So essentially, if you're not careful, you end up leaving the high school coach completely out. And we're concerned that oftentimes when you leave a high school coach out, you leave some of the character traits out that you desire, and that's something that's important to us, to be able to connect with that high school coach to make sure that you know what's going on with that student athlete, that you understand that he's a hard worker and he's going to be a part of the team and he's going to be a part of a structure that you can coach him. He's going to be something other than just a talent. So those are the things that have been expressed to us by our coaches, and we'll meet with the board of directors of the Texas High School Coaches Association tomorrow, and we'll probably hear those same thoughts from them because that's what we're hearing as we go around the state. High school football, we believe, is in great position. I will also echo what Coach Rutledge says, and I've been saying this for some time, and we all agree that Texas high school football today is safer than it's ever been. The equipment is much better. As you walk around the exhibit halls and you see all the equipment that's available and the uniqueness of it, will show you that it's a lot better than in the days back in the 50s and 60s and when we were playing with suspension helmets and those sort of things. The fitting of the equipment, the trainers that are on board, the medical professionals who have rendered to us practice protocols and restrictions. So there are more limits on practice, and there are additional concussion protocols that the legislature has passed. So we believe the game is safer than ever before. The better training, better coaching. I know the old guard which I'm a part of, would say, how can you say that? And, well, we've had some fabulous coaches through the years, but the opportunity with the technology, you see these iPads and you see the technology that's available to coaches and the huddle and the film and all the things that they can utilize today. It's much easier to learn more techniques and more methodology. So our coaches today are some of the smartest, intelligent people that I know, and they're doing great things with young people. I'm very proud that Texas High School Coaches Association, UIL, and the Dallas Cowboys have worked together to create a coaching inside-out perspective, a character education program. This came to us from the Dallas Cowboys and through a grant through the NFL to provide education to high school coaches as they work with the youth of our state. And they're doing this in a couple of different states, but Texas is one of them, and the Cowboys brought this to us. And Charlotte Jones Anderson with the Cowboy organization is the one that led out, and she brought DW together and the Coaches Association along with us at the UIL, and we're very proud to work with them on this character ed. Joe Ehrman, former Indianapolis Colts player, wrote a book called Inside Out Coaching, and he's done a fabulous job over the last 2 days. And we've been working with him since February, I believe, if that's right, Susan, and very proud of the things that he's putting out there. Much the same information that young people get from their coaches already, but from a different voice and a different method. And so we're really pleased to be a part of that initiative, and it will continue on. We had almost 800 coaches and athletic directors in attendance yesterday, so it was a big day for that. So we're looking forward to greater days ahead with that program. Otherwise, we believe that the excitement about our championship football event continues to grow. We'll be back in AT&T Stadium December 14th through the 17th. That's a Wednesday through Saturday. We'll have our two Conference 1A six-man football games on Wednesday afternoon, and I'll let Susan talk a little bit about that in a minute, the game times and that sort of thing. And then we'll have our 4 games on Thursday, 3 on Friday, and 3 on Saturday. So that's the format for this coming year. We're really excited about that. We're very pleased with our coaches and their cooperation through these years as it's grown through these past 10 years. Very pleased to have all the games at one site on one weekend. And I believe it's going to be an exciting event as it has been over the last several years as we pull all those games together. I'm very proud to work with an outstanding group, and you've gotten to know Dr. Jamey Harrison, our Deputy Director, and Dr. Susan Elza, who's on our 1-year anniversary, and she hit the ground running last year at this time, and she's been a fabulous addition to our staff. In the back, you see Tracy Neely. Tracy, wave at the group. Tracy is also one of our assistant athletic directors. Proud of our staff. Daryl Beasley, who's over at the Convention Hall, and Brian Polk, who is the newest member of our staff, who came on board in December after finishing a career of coaching at Byron Nelson. Kind of young to get out of coaching, but we're glad to have him. The freshness that Susan brings and the freshness that Brian brings help reconnect us to the coaches, because we've been out of it for a while. Jamey's been a superintendent. And that's been a long time since I coached anything. So it's good to have people that understand how it feels on Friday night. It's one of the things that I'll always remember, and people ask me that all the time. What do you miss about coaching? And it's real easy. I miss those things that you would miss if you were involved with something to the latitude that you're in as a coach. When you're working 16, 18 hours, you miss the informal times. You miss the camaraderie and all the esprit de corps that goes on with that. And you miss the exciting moments that, that raise the hair on your arms and the back of your neck, standing at attention for the national anthem. Waiting to play a game, your heart beating 90 miles an hour. You can't get that just anywhere. The excitement and joy of a big win in a game that you don't expect. Listen to kids sing on the bus on the way home after a game they didn't expect to win. And all those things. And the importance of feeling needed. Coaches are so needed in our society, and they're particularly necessary today. We continue to say that our coaches are such an important part of the bridging the gap and building the fence around a kid and helping them understand there are boundaries, and there is an importance in boundaries. Our coaches or surrogate parents many times. I really appreciate Coach Rutledge's initiative about dealing with these young people who are fatherless. And you talk about the fatherless child. I mean, it's easy to be a father. It's pretty hard to be a dad. And, you know, I'm concerned about that as well. And I really appreciate his efforts to bring that to the attention to everyone. And so that coach working with those young people, it's more than that Friday night. Because let's think about this. What's really the importance of sport? Is there any redeeming value in sport by itself? Moving an object or a person through space, that's a definition of sport, isn't it? The redeeming qualities are the intrinsic values. It's not the gold medal or the trophy that you lift over your head, even though that's valuable and important to us and we like it and it's part of what we do. But it's the building of young people, and it's helping them understand and that they can achieve a goal. They can be better than what they think they can. They can be a part of a team. They can achieve the goals that they didn't believe that they could achieve from the very beginning. So all those things make sports special. And it's especially true in Texas when you start talking about Friday night and what Friday night means. Why is Friday night so special in Texas? It's because of all the people that come together, the whole community coming to see their alma mater play, or coming to see their kids play, or coming to see their friends' kids play, or their relatives' kids play, or just going out on a Friday night for a social outing in some small town in Texas. Every school, no matter where they are, in a big city or out in a small town, are communities. They're communities. And they want to see their young people do well. And in that social aspect, you have all these auxiliary groups that come about. You have the drill teams and the cheerleaders and the band. You have all these different spirit groups, and you have all kinds of people selling things at these games. You have cheerleaders, boosters selling, and you have band boosters selling, and you have PTAs that are selling, and you have Kiwanis clubs and the Rotaries, and they're doing all kinds of things to raise money for their groups. It's an opportunity to bring all of our people together. And I think it just shows what Texas is all about. It's been something special for us a long time because everyone gets a chance to be a part. A big part of the Friday night experience is not always the 22 guys that are on the field at the same time. It's about all the other people that are in the stands and all the others that surround that field that are part of it and are special too. So we're proud of high school football, and we're proud of our coaches, and we're proud of all the activities that we have. We've added a lot of new things since I came to the league. You know, wrestling's a new sport, soccer's fairly new, team tennis is a big deal, and we're considering new things. Every year somebody presents something new to us. We've got a survey out about lacrosse and water polo. Our school superintendents would tell you we have too much already. We can't cover what we have. We can't pay for all that we have. And adding something else puts a lot of pressure on us. But we let them decide. They're the ones that make the decisions about what we have and don't have. Very proud of the work that the Legislative Council did over this past year. We passed over 50 new proposals following our sunset review from the legislature. It was a good process, a painful one, but a good one. It was healthy for us to analyze all of our rules, look to see what's good and what's not. We had a large committee come forward and put all those things forward for us, and I'll let Dr. Harrison talk about those. But I think we're a better organization because of it, and I think because we have learned to listen and learned to take great ideas. I was talking to Carl Padilla back there a minute ago. I always like to hear what he has to say. Don't always agree with him, but you know what? We will listen to him. And we'll listen to all of you because you all have good ideas. Some of the best ideas we've ever gotten have come from coaches or writers or people who have analyzed this, who've put pen to paper and said, well, you know what, if you did this, it would come out like this. Or Carl always asked me about 7A. And I said, well, what about 13A? Because we have 12 right now. So all those are possibilities. There's nothing ever off the table. And I think you need to understand this about our Legislative Council. When they reject an item, it never goes away. It's always there to be brought back up again. And some of the things that have been put aside for many years, all of a sudden the council takes an interest in it and it moves forward. And we're pleased with that process. Keep in mind the Legislative Council made up of our superintendents from all the conferences across the 4 regions. are the ones that vote on our rules, and oftentimes they put those things out on the referendum ballot, and all the schools then get a vote on it. So that's how our rules are made. We don't get to make those rules. I'm glad that we don't get to, because I've had some bad ideas in my time. Thank goodness that they didn't go very far. We're pleased to be able to work on behalf of our school people and on behalf of our coaches. We're proud to have a great association, as I mentioned, with the Texas High School Coaches Association, the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association, the Texas High School Girls Coaches Association, and all those other groups. There's a coaches association for every sport, isn't there, Coach Rutledge? There is a specialty group out there interested. There's a coaches association for cross country, a separate one for swimming, a separate one for wrestling. So we're proud about that. I want to bring up Dr. Harris and let him talk a little bit and answer some questions. And then Dr. Elza, what a great job they both have done. I'm proud of them, and I'll let them talk, and then we'll answer any questions that you have. Dr. Harrison.
Thank you, Dr. Breithaupt. What I think Dr. Elza and I largely want to do is respond to the topics that you want to talk about. So we'll let you ask us some questions. We do have a few things we want to kind of touch on before we get to those. First of all, I want to say thank you to Coach Rutledge and the Texas High School Coaches Association for always allowing UIL to be a part of this convention. It's a phenomenal convention. And Dr. Breithaupt, as you can tell, has an absolute passion for coaching and for coaches. And he continually reminds UIL staff that without a good quality collaborative relationship with coaches, including the Texas High School Coaches Association, we can't be as good of a league as we can possibly be. And what Coach Rutledge announced earlier about their new partnership with MaxPreps, I think is an example of the fruits of the labors of Dr. Breithaupt and Coach Rutledge, and making sure that these two organizations continue to have a very solid working relationship. MaxPreps has been a great sponsor of ours for some time, and the fact that they're now also partnering with the Texas High School Coaches Association really creates some exciting opportunities moving forward for coaches who will now have one place, as was mentioned earlier, to enter all of that. And one of the questions was, how does that change anything for parents or for fans? Well, very simply, is we expect it means a lot more data, a lot more statistics, a lot more scores will be entered into MaxPreps, and because of that, our schools, our coaches, our kids, most importantly, will get a lot more exposure through MaxPreps, who's a leader in the country, really in the world, in providing these types of statistics and this type of data. So we're really excited about that. Coach Rutledge, thank you very much for letting us be a part of this great convention. Somebody asked earlier about pitch count limitations, and so let's go into that just a little bit. The National Federation did pass a rule just a couple of 3 weeks ago here, very, very recently, maybe less than that even, that would require that state associations adopt their own rules specific to pitching limitations and then required rest between outings for pitchers. So that's a conversation, fortunately, here at the UIL we have been involved in for 18 to 24 months. With the Texas High School Coaches Association, the Texas High School Baseball Coaches Association, various stakeholders around the state, most importantly, the medical leaders in this particular area, many of whom sit on the UIL Medical Advisory Committee. So the Medical Advisory Committee of the UIL has been discussing this for some time. We have a great starting point. We are going to continue to work with stakeholders. Quite frankly, this is going to be implemented 1 year faster than we expected. We were hoping to go with some recommendations for the coming year, use that year to better flesh out what would then become requirements for 17-18. So this will now become a requirement for 16-17, and once we have that fleshed out and gone through our promulgation process, we're excited to announce that out. But the most important thing to say is we're not starting from scratch. We've been heavily involved in this conversation for some time, working with coaches, working with trainers, working with the medical community to make sure that we keep our kids safe. You know, as has been mentioned multiple times, I strongly believe that high school football in Texas is safer now than it ever has been. We want all of our sports to be safer than they ever have been. This is another way for us to do that in baseball. Dr. Elza, if you want to come up and say a word, and then Dr. Elza and I are happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Well, hello, everybody. I made it through year one. Did y'all bring me any anniversary gifts or anything? This time last year, I got to stand before you and and just say, here I am, and my head's gonna spin for a little while. But the one thing, I talked to some athletic directors this morning, a group of ADs, and DW had come in and spoke before that. And if there's one thing that I recognized over this first year is that we're better together. And all of our associations, and from our Texas High School Coaches Association to our ADs Association to our basketball, our baseball, our Texas Girls Coaching Association, you get to know all the leaders, and even you guys in the media, to be honest with you. I mean, there's a lot of things that come into play whenever you're in a job like this. But if we're together and we're working together and we're working through our challenges together on these, and we work to answer y'all's questions as they come, it just goes so much more smoothly. The partnership that we've formed with Texas High School Coaches Associations, it's not new. I think it's reestablished, and it's been good. It's been profound for me to serve in this role, and it's been, I'm not as eloquent as these two right here. So it's just been a straight running blast is what it's been. I love what we do. I love athletics. I love coaches. I love to see kids compete. And that's what you get to do all day, every day on this job. And it's like I said, it's been a whirlwind. I called it drinking out of a fire hose for a solid year. Hoping to get my feet just a little bit more firmly planted on the ground this year. But it's been good. I appreciate everything that Dr. Harrison and Dr. Breithaupt done to support. And I think it will continue to just get better. So that's really all I wanted to say to the group. And I believe we will take any questions at this point.
Carl? Are we coming up with the logo for the 100th year? Well, we had a logo for the 100th year of the UIL. I think we've got a little bit of time to talk about the 100th year of football. I expect, knowing Dr. Breithaupt and his passion for celebrating our traditions and our history, that we're likely to come up with something very fun.
Charles said that, I think it was Susan, you were going to talk about football.
Sure.
I mean, what's going to happen there at AT&T Stadium?
The schedule basically stays the same as it was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But what has changed is, we've added, our six-man football is a part of our whole state championship venue now instead of being the weekend prior. So they will play on Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon. I believe we settled on 4 and 8. 4 and 8. 5 and 8. We've kind of only thing we haven't probably said exactly is that time. We've gone back and forth between 2 times, so it's either going to be a 4 and 8 or a 5 and 8. Had a lot of great conversations with our six-man coaches through their coaching association. They are just thrilled to be a part of one solid venue on one solid week of football. So we're excited about that, and we're excited about being at AT&T. It's a great venue, and we're talking right now. We're fixing to start, but y'all know how that goes. That'll be here soon as well.
Susan, did the six-man coaches express any concern about the quick turnaround from playing a semifinal, say on Friday, and 5 days later for a championship?
They actually have. They finished that Saturday prior. I don't have all the dates committed to memory off the top of my head. They actually get extra time. I mean, they're more in line with maybe what a Super Bowl team does, or maybe a college team, where they have the extra time to prepare for those games. So they were excited, even if they had to have a short turnaround. They just wanted to be a part of that whole state championship week, and we were able to land on that. And it's exciting time for that group. It's exciting time for football in general.
Just to be clear, so the six-man schedule runs a week earlier. So rather than a shorter turnaround where they would be playing on Saturday, they get to the following Wednesday, so they get those extra days.
Thursday is obviously a tough day because you're squeezing 4 games into one day. Is there anything from y'all's perspective that can be done to prevent that real late start in the last game?
Great question, and I hadn't even had a chance to brief Dr. Breithaupt or Dr. Harris. So I'm just fresh coming out of the football advisory, and that's one of the areas that we're going to have to look at is that Thursday game slot. And I just had a great conversation with the football advisory for the Texas High School Coaches Association, talking about maybe shifting one of the 2A games to the Wednesday. Maybe flopping that back and forth. I mean, we're in the early stages of that conversation, and we're obviously, when I get done with this, we've got another football meeting coming up. So some of those things we're going to vet through our coaches and let them know, but that is something that we are looking at is maybe taking one of those 2A games into Wednesday.
Would you do it this year?
No, that would not be until 2017. Good question.
You
I don't know if it's a mandate.
Would not eliminate the 5-day rule.
Right. But let me just give you the feedback that we just received from the meeting that I was at prior to this is, you know, is there going to be a problem with that? That's what we want to know, you know, from a coach's standpoint, the one that has to make that turnaround on that. And they feel if they know in advance, you know, if we threw it on them, you know, mid playoffs, that's what the concern would be. But if they know in advance that this is what the schedule's going to be like, then they're going to schedule their playoff games around that.
I'm sorry, the competitive advantage that, what is the feedback you got from the coaches on that? Because the Houston Southern schools did better in Houston than they did at AT&T. And then you got feedback from the coaches on that? About where the game
I mean, Dr. Harrison or Dr. Breithaupt may have. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't had anybody land on that point that much, you know, saying that Houston gave them an advantage by being there. I mean, coincidentally, you did have a lot of those area schools win, and I think that's a topic for debate in any arena. But, you know, for myself, I haven't had a lot of people weigh in on that.
The old argument that we hear all the time is, well, it's watered down because when I was in school, whenever that was, only this many went, and now somehow it's different than the experience I had in high school, and it can't be as good as what I experienced. But the data doesn't support that. Our third and fourth place teams do exceptionally well in the playoffs in every single sport. We've had fourth place state champions in multiple sports. So the increased competitiveness across all sports, and then the overwhelming value of that postseason experience, anecdotally, is why I would submit to you that schools like the playoff system we have.
Splitting the divisions in 5A and 6A, is that something you guys are also continuing to look at?
We will be actually surveying schools in those two conferences on that for the split conference format for football in 5A and 6A. We've had a lot of discussion on that. There may be a little bit of a thought shift in that area. Historically, 6A and 5A schools have not wanted to have the split conference format. They prefer splitting postseason rather than prior to district starting. However, I think the success of that format in conferences 4A and below has increased the interest. Whether or not that's created a groundswell or a consensus to move that way, we'll see with the survey. But it's certainly an active conversation that we're having. So currently in 5A and 6A, you have 32 districts with 4 teams each going. If you did a split conference, you would have 2 sets of 16 districts. So it's the same number of schools. The same number of schools going. It's just how they're divided up front.
Jamey, what is anything set in stone as far as the pitch limit, or when will that be determined? Like who counts it, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well,
when should we expect something on that, or have you already decided?
I think you'll see something at our October council meeting, which will be in plenty of time to implement for baseball in the spring. But you bring up some important points. Deciding how many pitches is important, how many days of rest. Those are difficult conversations, but ones that have a lot of data behind them, a lot of different models to look at. Who counts those pitches? What do you do if somebody goes over that number of pitches? What happens if a kid pitches before his required rest days? What if the home book and the guest book have a different number of pitches? Are you going to require schools to have a pitch counter to pay another bookkeeper? Or are you going to have the official bookkeeper be the person that does that? There's a whole number of questions about implementation of those limitations. And we feel like those conversations are pretty far advanced so far, but they're certainly not complete. And we're actually having a meeting tomorrow with the Baseball Advisory Committee from the Texas High School Coaches Association, along with some representatives from the Texas High School Baseball Coaches Association. The Medical Advisory Committee will meet again in October prior to the October Council. So that's a really long way to answer your question of when do you think you'll see something. Well, I think you'll see something passed by the October Council. Carl's been asking trying to ask a question for a while. Say that again? There's a lot of thought about it. There's a lot written about it outside of UIL member schools. I don't see much in the way of momentum amongst UIL member schools or amongst coaches for reseeding based on something, because it's always what that something would be that's critical. Are you going to go by this set of rankings or that set of rankings? Or are you going to have a committee that literally goes around and watches every school play with over 1,400 high schools and 265,000 square miles? That doesn't seem terribly reasonable. So yeah, that's a lot of fun for you guys to write about. But when it comes time for actual implementation and visiting with our coaches and athletic directors and our member school superintendents, I don't think there's much momentum for that.
Is the UIL concerned at all in certain areas of the state, shortages of officials and qualified officials, especially at the sub-varsity level of the coaches? Mentioned anything like that? I've noticed, especially in some small towns, varsity games getting moved to Thursdays because of lack of officials, those types of things. It seems to be kind of a concern.
It is a concern. You know, I'm fresh off of attending the TASO volleyball officials meeting and met with their board of directors, and later in this week I'll be with the TASO football, and it's a concern across this state and all states. When we went to the National Federation Convention, it was a topic. You know, I don't think there's any easy solution. I mean, I think they're trying to figure out a way to recruit and get people interested in officiating, especially at a younger age, maybe as they're exiting high school and into college. And you know, but the sport that comes to mind, as you said, that is, you know, the reschedule and things like that. Soccer was a challenge this year, and I know it was statewide. And you know, sometimes they have to move games in order to have officials. And you know, where we can't offer all the solutions, we're there to support and listen and try to help them solve those solutions as they go. But I do know that there's an effort to brainstorm. It's just I don't think there's a legitimate answer at this point in time. It is a concern.
Sure. So for the coming year, they'll be back in San Antonio. We're continuing to work with the folks in San Antonio. They've been a great host city here for our last two tournaments, and then, of course, we'll be back there this year. For anything beyond that, we're keeping our options open. We're receiving a lot of different feedback for ways we could make that experience better inside the arena here in San Antonio. It's a wonderful arena. It's just really big. But what we hear consistent feedback that it's a great experience outside the arena. You know, availability of hotels, proximity of hotels and restaurants and parking and all of those things have been very, very good. So we are considering other options that might help inside the facility here in San Antonio. And, you know, we're always interested in pursuing options at other venues. But for the coming year, it will certainly be back here in San Antonio. We're excited about that and very thankful for our relationship with the folks at the Alamo Dome and the folks at the city of San Antonio.
Does that also include, is still the thought process of keeping the girls' tournament and the boys' tournament at the same?
For the coming year. Now, I will tell you, where before that conversation seemed to be a showstopper, now there's a lot more folks interested in having that conversation about potentially having the girls' tournament at one venue and the boys' tournament at a separate venue. And so we're going to continue working with the Girls Coaches Association, the Basketball Coaches Association, of course, the representatives here at THSCA, and then the folks with whom we have great relationships all around the state who have great venues to host that.
LoneStarGridiron.com. Access the complete history of Texas high school football, over 100 years of information, win-loss records, coaching histories, individual stats, records, and more. Lone Star Gridiron, the authority on Texas high school football.